E360 TV proudly presents Messages of Inspirational Stories TV show. Live streaming now to millions of devices around the world on Roku, Apple TV, Amazon Fire TV, Android TV, YouTube Live, Facebook live streaming. Our shows are available video on demand on these channels. And we broadcast daily, Monday through Friday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time on these channels. On Mondays, Expanding Your Business. Tuesdays, Finding Health Naturally. Wednesdays, Mentoring Our Youth. Thursdays, Pets We Love. And on Fridays, Women in Leadership. Brought to you by our producers and hosts, Jimgrant and donnaguinouard. Along with our host, Beata Severin Reed and Emersonbrantley. Supported by our admin team of Michaela Vidal and Gaia Guinois Balconi Weda. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the show. The Messages of Inspirational Stories is proudly brought to you by the good guys at the 6minutewebinar.com. And the 6-minute webinar enables you to make a perfect presentation to your ideal client on one thing that you can do for them. Because too many people want to do the shotgun effect. We can help you do this. We also do this, and we also do that. But the only reason if you can do that one thing for them, then the 6-minute webinar does that. And be sure and go to the 6-minute webinar and check it out. We're going to be putting on some free 6-minute webinars there. So it's going to be announced on the website. So just, stay tuned to that. Also, we're very proudly sponsored by the good guys over at the library. Did you know that, Emerson? Ideas Worth Knowing is a book library. Did you know
That's
that?
right.
That thing's just plumb full of books, ain't it?
And you know what? They can have a private card to it to be able to get bestsellers right off.
Yeah. Why don't you go ahead and share that with the audience? Yeah, share that with the audience, a complimentary card.
Well, Mike is going to be on here with us today, and I'm going to let him talk a little bit more about it. But basically, Ideas Worth Knowing has a library card, digital card that you can get and use to view books in the library. And these are best-selling books, Jim. They're bestsellers. You can go on to Amazon and buy some of them for $15, $20, $25, or you can use your library card and get to see them and read them and share them for free.
Absolutely. And I'm going to be turning the show over to Mike and Emerson, and because they've got a lot of information to cover. Yes. And I want to let them have full time here. So I'll be back to wrap it up, ladies and gentlemen. So let's welcome Mr. Mike to the show there. How you doing, sir?
There he is.
Hey, folks, I'm doing great.
Yeah. And would you share a little bit about the complimentary 10 books there?
I will, Jim. That's something we've been working on for a long time, and we're close enough to let the public know. I think we've got maybe a dozen books already available there. But we're not listing just any book. All of these books are interviews with experts. Like, for example, your book will probably be going on next week or the following week after we do the bestseller campaign.
Jim's about to have a bestseller, folks.
He's going
to. Write it down.
Yeah. I can't even spell bestseller.
That's okay. You don't need to be able to spell. It's like I can't write, but I'm a best-selling author. That's really very true. I literally flunked high school English, had a terrible time graduating. But I have some of the best writers in the world, and more importantly, some of the best editors in the world working for me. What I'm good at is interviewing people and pulling the information out of them. Because we don't want to ghostwrite a book for people. We want to write a book like your book will be in your voice. When people read Jim's book, they'll know that it's Jim's knowledge and Jim's wording that's in there. And I think that's very important, especially given how easy just massive content creation has gotten the last 6 months, which is what I'm going to talk about later in the show. But we go in, we pick the people. This isn't a voluntary thing. I do have people solicit me to be in the program, but we go through a pretty diligent background check to make sure that they are experts at what they want to talk about and that they have a good reputation in the business community. Because we want our people to be able to depend on us to give them good, solid information. And that's part of why the books are so small, is most people don't realize when you write a book, if you're very adept at writing, it's going to take you about 200 hours or about 10% of your time that you work in a year. But some people, to get that 200 hours in, takes them 7 or 8 years. And that's not the frustrating part, because they can update it right to the very end. What's frustrating is once they turn it over to a major, hang on, I'm having a problem with my camera there. Okay, I guess that's better. Well, anyways, once they turn it over to a major publisher, then it's going to take another 2 years before it hits a bookstore. So you're looking at 3, maybe 4-year-old information when you buy a just published book from Barnes and Noble. In the industries that I work in, 3 years could just as easily be 3 decades, because the industries are changing that fast. So our whole thing with these books is to talk about a very narrow range of topic with one of the top experts in the country about it. Like if people want to know about what it takes just to get started in a podcast, they can spend an hour reading your book and they'll know it all, you know, because you were very succinct on what you said. You had the knowledge to say it. It's being well edited. So instead of reading these 300-page masterpieces, they get the information they need. They get it fast. You know,
that's what they want. Well, let me go ahead and get backstage here and turn the show over to you guys, and because I know
we're
you're
going to have fun with it.
There you go.
All right, Emerson. Is my camera working now?
Oh yeah, yeah,
Okay,
that's a lot
good.
better.
Yeah, sorry. I cleaned my office and I can't do a thing with it.
I know. Yeah, pardon the mess. I just straightened up.
Yeah, exactly. I know we were going to talk more about the books today, Emerson, but we did a good job last week on it, and we can do it again at a later one. What I'd like to discuss is AI, ChatGPT, and all the major players have. It's like the news runs in cycles with them. You know, 1 week there'll be just 50 companies that were launched, and the next week you got Google, Facebook, LinkedIn, Amazon, all making massive announcements. Like Google is scared that OpenAI has really stole their thunder. I mean, they're in a panic mode right now. I think Code Red is what they call it.
Well, Google has been, you know, when people talked about AI 2 or 3 years ago, Google had an entire AI team.
Oh yeah,
and you know, this is a case of and people, those of you viewing who've been in business or worked in companies over the years have had people come in and consultants and things like that. But Google had a whole team of people. The problem is they had a legacy culture of how they made their money. They made their money through Google ads. That's how they did it, through listings, through ads, and through placements. And when they got YouTube, adding that right into the loop. And they have had a tug of war internally over whether or not they can continue and how they can continue without, because AI by itself can do amazingly different kinds of searching than what you're able to get through traditional search engines. Isn't that right, Mike?
Oh, no question about it. And I think they were caught a little flat-footed because of that legacy. But they're in it with a vengeance now, folks. They announced in the last week that they're going to have AI on everything Google. It's going to be in their search engine. It's within just weeks, it's going to be in all of the Google Docs, Google spreadsheets, Google search. It's my expectation that Google will be able to take G Drive and train your own personal AI machine on all the information that you've accumulated over the years. I mean, I got to have 8 or 10 terabytes of information in there, and the machines.
That's a lot. That's a lot, folks.
Yeah, it's that's a nice way of putting it. But, it's going to be good, because then when I tell it to write in Mike Lewis's style, it's going to go back and look at the other 24 books I wrote and how I wrote them, and it's going to use that style to shape what it searches for and the answers that it gets. And that, folks, is exciting. It's Chat GPT is, oh gosh, I don't even know a good analogy for it, but you throw what you think is a good prompt in, I throw what I think is a good prompt in, and because it's got so much data available to it, our two answers will be totally different.
Yes.
And if you ask the prompts right, it'll be correct. If you just throw a half-ass prompt in there, it's half the time going to give you the wrong answer. Yeah. But it's not giving you the wrong answer. I want to stress that. What it's doing is giving you the correct response for the prompt that you gave it. So if that correct response is something fictitious, that's not OpenAI's fault or the Chat GPT-4. It's improper prompting. So that's something that currently is a real issue that we have to learn about. But I will say this, it's a short-term issue, folks. Oh, yeah. Because everybody in the world knows that prompts need to be more automated for the mass majority of us. And it's going to happen. Google has pulled out all the stops now trying to catch up. Microsoft is head and shoulders above them. On Bing, you can already use Chat GPT-4 right in the search engine. I mean, you don't even have to leave the page. It's awesome what's happening there. But the big thing that I think really shook me was several companies that were considering going public decided to go open source. And, that was the original plan for OpenAI, was it to be open source. But then when they started looking at a company with $300 billion of value, I can't really blame them for changing their mind. So it's not truly open source. It's API accessible. But the difference with open source is it's going to allow everybody in the world to build on top of what the company has already built. So, yeah, I mean, that means plugins, that means templates, that means interfaces that are built just for horse enthusiasts, medical doctors, different practices in medicine. I mean, the people, and what Google and Microsoft actually admitted in because it was a panel discussion, what they actually admitted was that open source can develop better and faster solutions than they can, even with their mammoth size. So,
well, we've seen that after decades of studying DNA in the human genome. It was open source that made the difference, and in a very short period of time, literally, we can compare it to the decades that were spent previous. They have mapped the entire human genome, and they have mapped everything that there is to know about every protein, just about everything about the human body, things that have taken centuries to understand. And it was because, and I'm using open source openly here or loosely here, but when you, with the idea of open source, it's not the pride of authorship. It's the collaboration that makes the difference. So you have, instead of a team of brilliant people in one company that are trying to do everything they can. You have thousands and thousands of people around the world who are feeding the information into that kind of a system. And I go back, Mike, to when they first. Well, transistors were a huge change.
I remember.
In electronics. But a bigger change was the development of the chip. But the first chip, and chips are in everything today. I remember, I wish I had it. I remember having a National Geographic with a picture, I believe, on the cover of engineers in a gymnasium on their knees with paper all over the floor of the gymnasium and their slide rules. And they were drawing out the circuitry for that first chip. Now, the next generation chip happened in a matter of just a few years because it had the knowledge from the development of that first one. And many people have heard of that, of the term Moore's law. Okay. And basically, I'm gonna put it into layman speak here. Every generation of chip happens roughly 50% faster than the last one. It's an acceleration because this generation is able to design the next generation, and AI takes that to a whole different level. When they feed all of this information in from thousands of people and websites and resources from all over the world, it grows in its knowledge. For some people, that can be scary. And certainly there's some ethical and other considerations that we have to be willing to look at in this. But in terms of the advancements that we're able to see, it is amazing how fast it's developing. Wouldn't you say, Mike?
I think that's exactly right, and it's overwhelming, folks. I read 2 daily updates in the industry, and both of them take me 15 to 20 minutes to read. That's a long email when it takes you 20 minutes to read, and that's if I don't chase any links. If I chase links.
Yeah, it's all substance. It's all
good stuff.
Informational stuff that builds, and there's terminology to understand and figuring out how that connects with this one.
But we're taking a different route with what we're doing. Emerson and I have been working on a general AI educational website, which I think it's ready to go, but we're going to wait till next week to announce it, just to make sure after we've done a few more tests and got the gremlins out. But having said that, we did that because we wanted the businesses that we work with, and we work, both of us, him and his copywriting and marketing business and me and my publishing business, we tend to work with either very senior executives in a company or the actual owners of the company. And those guys are all wanting to know what they should do. And there are these business owners, folks, already have a full dance card. They're already running as fast as they can. Gosh, some of them are working 60 and 70 hours. When they say they don't have enough time to learn AI, and maybe AA would help. But having said that, they really don't. So what we're trying to focus on is bringing in new books that talk about specifics of what machine learning and artificial intelligence can do for you today. Because unless you're a 25-year-old looking for an unbelievably good career, you're not going to be able to take the time and the energy to learn everything there is to learn about AI. I don't even think AI can learn that much.
No.
But what you can do is learn which parts of AI work for you right now, and stay well educated so that when other tools come into the industry, you're aware of them and you can see whether or not they're a good fit for you. And
if you have a business or you have a company, or you're in local government and you're concerned about making sure that your chambers of commerce, making sure that your businesses, are staying on that edge, they're slipping off of it every single day if they're not on it right now, and looking at how can you utilize these advances in your niche and with the things that you need.
Yeah, it's very hard to know. I mean, everybody's heard Chat GPT, GPT-4, Bard from Google, who knows who from Amazon. They're using up just about every name you can think of because there's that many companies launching.
Yes.
I mean, one of the sites that I get my information from is way north of 2,000 new companies that have been founded this year, specifically in AI. And some of them are getting hundreds of millions. Jasper, for example, got 125 million on their A funding round. That was just unbelievable on an A funding round. And as companies
explain to the viewers what you mean by that.
Yeah. Well, first, when you you're right. When you start a company, you're starting with usually your money and friends and family. You get a little bit of traction, and then you get angel investors, or what we call seed money, that expect a large return real fast, but they're taking a huge risk. Then when you get to A funding, you're not quite profitable yet, but you've have proof of concept. So that gives you the funding to change it from an entrepreneurial vehicle to an operating, functioning business and really start to accelerate your growth. And then the B and C funding are when they cash in the big bucks and take the risk guys out of it. But having said that, Jasper raised 125 million as a brand new company, has not shown any profits, only existed for 2.5 years. And that, if you take the percentage of the company that you sell to the investor and divide that, you're going to find out what the true value of the company is. So they gave up 10%. So that means their company on that day was worth $1.25 billion. That's pretty good for a 2-year-old company. You'll hear the term unicorn thrown around a lot, and a company that gets to $1 billion value in less than 5 years is a unicorn, folks. And they exist. You hear stories about them, but you're not going to find one grazing in your backyard. But there are some great tools to help businesses right now. The first thing, and one of the reasons why we're pushing more for these small books than the great big ones that we used to publish. I mean, we still do publish, but for a different tool set. I would say the biggest difference is finding out what works right now for you today that will help you in your business, not where's AI going to be in a year or 2 years or whatever. When you're running a business, you don't have the luxury of looking out 3 to 5 years for something to happen. You got to make something happen this week, or your employees aren't going to be happy on Friday. And there's little things that were well, I say it's little. One of the biggest problems that any entrepreneur has when he gets ready to sell his business is anywhere between 90 and 100% of the business is right here. And I can't buy that from you when I buy your company. But
and entrepreneurs typically are chief cooks and bottle washers. And then they start bringing in people.
Yeah, or they're technicians.
And they want everybody to know everything about the business. So they want everybody to be a chief cook and bottle washer. Yeah. They're not doing specialization as much. And that growth curve continues to grow because that's the stage they are in their business. But there's a place in there. You can't have 10 chief cooks and bottle washers. And you have to start segmenting and specializing the people where they are focused on 1 or 2 areas of that business.
Right. And that requires SOPs. And for you folks that don't know what an SOP is, that happens to be something that Chat GPT-4 is freaking awesome at writing. And it's also the ugliest, most boring crap in entrepreneurial
standard operating procedures manual.
That's right. But if you've got a complete book of the standard operating procedures for your business, you can sell that business.
Yeah.
Because someone else can come in and operate it as successfully as you. But even more so, the better your standard operating procedures are, the lower ranked, I'll say that, I got to say it kindly, the lower ranked employees can perform, so most small businesses, what they want to do is hire super A players. They want players that come in that already know this and that and the other thing. And they find out that anybody that knows everything they want them to know has their own company and doesn't want to work for them. But
or wants more than what they're willing to pay.
Right. The people that do want to work for them, the B's and the C's that want to go and work 10 or 20 years with them and do a really good job, they need direction. You can't set them in front of a machine in a widget factory and say, here, make 500 widgets by the end of the day. And you haven't even showed the guy how to turn it on,
right,
let alone how to keep his hands out of the widget cruncher or whatever.
Let me interject just a second here, Mike, because one of the things that just, it always irritates me. There's a line of talking or thinking among people who really buy into the entrepreneurial mindset. And I don't really know exactly how to phrase this, but basically, if you're not an entrepreneur, if you're not starting your own business, you really are stupid. I'm just going to say it that way.
Yeah, that's the way a lot of people feel.
That's how a lot of, and the thing that I hate it when I see that, because the reality is that person can't be doing that business without having an awful lot of people that are more than interested, more than happy. What they want in their life is they want to be able to have a good, good secure job, a family, an income, be able to raise their kids, not have to be there 80 hours a week, have good, all of the things that people want. That doesn't make somebody less than or stupid. That makes somebody that is of great value if you're an entrepreneur or a business owner, because here's somebody, and I encourage all my clients, I say, treat them great. Make it phenomenal for them. Don't overload them and try to get every single thing you can get out of it. Don't be cheap on how you handle their benefits or their days off or their kids are sick. I love it. Love that person and help them in their life be able to experience something that matters to them and give them value and recognition, and accept the fact there are people, and I would say, Mike, probably the vast majority of people, owning a business, having employees, keeping up with payroll, worrying about suppliers and vendors and blah, 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 blah. That is not something that they want in their life. And when we look at that kind of a dynamic, each one of those parties has a value to the other party. And what you were talking about is one of my pet things with clients is standard operating procedures. I had a client who the general manager and this is going back a few years when fax machines were still used quite a bit, but they would go in and walk somebody through personally, how you go through, put it in, make sure that it's tight, da da da. And I said to them, why don't you ask the next person to write down the notes, type them up, hand them to you, put them in a manual and start an SOP? Because the next person needs to know that, and the next one, and the next one, and the next one. And that's valuing the employees, but it's also recognizing you got to have systems and processes and things in place. So if you're not there that next time, somebody can just go over and open it up and take a look at it and know what they need to do.
Oh, no question about it. I'm going to use the same example that everyone else uses because it's so shockingly good, and that's McDonald's. You can go to McDonald's down here in Florida. You can go to McDonald's in Seattle, in Hawaii. And when you order a Big Mac, it's going to be exactly the same. I mean, not close. It's going to be identical every time. Now, I'm not saying the food is good. I'm saying it's consistent. And people want consistency and congruency.
He's
You
not
know,
saying it's bad either, McDonald's, if you're interested in sponsoring a really growing show.
yeah, I guess we could take them, but I'm on such a health kick. I don't know if I could take their money, but I'll try. Uh, I I just think that it's the one place that I see that AI can help any existing business today. And the prompts are pretty simple. You just go in there and ask it the questions that the people that you just trained asked you. You know, it's not rocket scientist. You say, please tell me what the daily duties should be for a receptionist, and it'll give you everything a receptionist should do that day.
Now,
And
Mike,
then,
you just gave an example of how you phrase a prompt.
yes,
And it's really important for the people, because I would say most of not all of the people that are watching have are streaming have gone in and searched on Google. And
yes,
we've learned how we have to kind of parse out the words and be careful and make sure we're trying to hit the key words and things like that when we're looking for something. But with AI, it's totally different. It's a conversation that we're
yeah,
having, and we have to shift our minds, shift the gears a bit, so that we're just putting it into common speak, which is why, for those of you it's why do they call it chat GPT? It's
yeah,
because what we're doing is we're having a conversation there. And Mike, you gave a great example just now of the way that you would ask something.
yeah. It's very much what you ask for is what you get. You know, so if you want, you know, if you're doing a term paper, which all term papers are going to be written by AI. I don't care what the colleges say. It's stupid for them to try and prevent it, just like they did with typewriters and calculators in computers. It's the new world. But you have to know what to ask it. And, you know, one of the things that you ask when you're doing a educational paper like that is you have to be able to quote your sources. So when you ask AI to give you an answer to something, you also tell it that you want it in the footnotes to give you the sources for everything that it found. And you can even ask it, after reviewing these sources, why did you determine that that was the correct answer? So I mean, you're literally sitting with an expert across from you, and the two of you are having a conversation. Now, the expert doesn't know a darn thing about widget factories. You can't just go up and say, what should I do if I run a factory? It'll give you an answer. And, you know, to a vague question like that, I can tell you it's not going to be a good answer. But if you say, I've got a Hearst and Wakefield press that I use to shape metal to make parts for a such and such, can you give me a list of all the maintenance items that I should make sure that the machine operator does every day? Some people call that an SOP. And that it can crank out, because it'll go find the machine. It'll find people that have done SOPs for the machine. It'll find people that had problems because they didn't do the SOPs. And it brings all that together in just not seconds, folks, but milliseconds. I mean, actually, the slowest part of AI is it takes a certain amount of time for the computer monitor to show the text. That's the bottleneck, folks, is this stuff is so fast that your monitor can't keep up with it. So if you go, there's one tool that I use, and I know I've told you about it, Emerson, that once you have it in your Chrome browser, if you open any YouTube video that you want, I don't care what it is or how old it is or anything, there, once you put this thing on your browser, there's a little bitty bar over in the right hand corner that says transcribe and summarize. Click that button, and a 3-hour webinar took, I'd say, under 2 minutes to completely transcribe for me. And to give you an idea, folks, that's 9 to 12 hours of butt busting work for a good transcriptionist to knock something like that out that fast.
And they charge quite a bit for it.
And the accuracy was really good. I mean, it wasn't perfect, but part of the reason it's not perfect is when it misunderstands a word because you didn't enunciate it. And we can't blame Chat GPT for our crappy enunciation. It's you got to at least speak the language you want it to translate in. So, standard operating procedures is just one example of something that can revolutionize your business right now. You don't need to know how ChatGPT works. You need to know how to apply ChatGPT in your business. And I promise you, there's thousands and thousands of really smart people trying to create easy user interfaces. And you'll hear it referred to a lot of times as UX. When you hear them talking about they're working on their UX, what they mean is they're designing the dashboard, the customer facing part of their software, so that novices like us can understand it enough to use it. They need to try and make it intuitive, I guess is the word I'm looking for, because I don't know about you, but I'm a man. I'll run out of gas before I stop for directions. I'm pretty much the same way with reading instructions. So, we're on right now StreamYard, which is a wonderful service for getting podcasts out. And I don't know anything about podcasting, but it's got the click here to stop your camera, click here to mute. You want to leave, click here. It just, anybody with even a semblance of technical knowledge can get on a good user interface and make it work. And that's where the real breakthroughs are at. The large language models are all going to be giant companies, folks. It takes a giant company to do it. Elon Musk, after he told everybody that he wanted everyone to stop any future development, 2 weeks later, he bought 10,000 of these special AI computers, 10,000 of them. I think all he and the other people that signed the letter were saying was, you guys are way ahead of us. Let us catch up. That ain't the way business works, thank God. Because I can tell you that
time waits for nobody, right?
No, and we demand progress. I mean, we're of the age where we remember when everybody was outraged that Walmart was growing throughout the country. Walmart was destroying Main Street. And I can promise you, Walmart never went down with a machine or a hammer or anything else and wiped out Main Street. What killed Main Street was the fact that the small businesses there couldn't satisfy their customers, and Walmart could.
Well, and what also, and I had having some personal experience with working with small town businesses versus big box businesses. The other part of it is that they continued to do business as normal, and business as normal included in their mind competing against or that these big box companies were competing against them. When the reality is in terms of competition, they had the edge in many cases with that local community. And it wasn't a money thing. It was so much more than that. And the ones who got it. And I was very fortunate to be able to work with sustaining some businesses that had been 70, 80, 90 years, while others in towns all around them were folding. So it's all in a mindset, in the way that you look at it. This technology is not going to disappear. It's not something that we can wish away. There are all sorts of concerns, ethical and other concerns with it. But it's here. So what we have to be willing to do is say, okay, how can we, in a positive way, utilize it to improve the things that we have to do all the time? I was talking, Mike, just the other day with a paralegal in an attorney's office, and
tough job.
Tough job. She's very concerned about AI. I can see that. And I said, think about it like this. Think of all of the things that are the mindless tasks that you have to be doing all the time. The endless reams of this, putting in this paragraph and this section and this. And here's something that can help make your life easier and open the door up so that you're able to guide it and do actually a better job. And that adds value. It doesn't take away value. It's a different way to look at it. And we all have to look at any of the new technology that comes along this way.
Yeah, AI is not going to take your job, folks, but your competitor using AI will
take your
job away.
That's a good way to put it.
If you're a paralegal in an office right now, I'd be busting my butt to learn everything I could about AI in the legal field. I would become the expert in the office on AI. So the other 10 paralegals may get reduced hours or even lose their jobs, but they're going to want you working overtime. And
I coming from, and I have a similar experience coming from. In marketing, I did an awful lot of printing, folks. I mean, millions and millions of pieces of printed brochures and direct mail and everything else. And I saw the technology come in. And at that time, I'm going to use a term here that some people may have never heard or might relate to something else. But there was a whole career in the printing industry of people known as strippers. And strippers were the people who took the graphic material that would be created photographically, and they would strip it into the documents that would become they would take the pictures of them to make the plates. So they had this ruby tape that blocked the light, so they could strip in all sorts of different graphics and groups of letters and things like that. Well, the largest company in town that provided plates for printers had 14 or 15 stripping tables with people doing that job in the scope of a year. As computers advanced and you're able to take graphics and do a lot of this adjustment and everything else graphically, in the scope of a year, it was cut down to one single table, because there still were some physical things at that time that they had to do. I doubt if any printing operation in this part of the country still has that process even in place, because once you do your graphics, the graphics are put into place and it outputs exactly the document that you need to be able to run that press. Well, people, it's easy to get really negative about stuff like that. And we have a strike going on right now for this people may be streaming this a year or 2 years from now, but there's a writer's strike taking place right now of writers who somehow, and I feel for them, but instead of saying we need to find a new need for what we know to do from all of our range of experience, they want to somehow block using AI from television and movies and things like that. Well, that's a futile effort. It is here, and it has advantages, and job needs are going to change. But we have to be willing to think outside the box and say, how can I be advancing with the technology? How can I be utilizing the technology? We saw it with robotics too, Mike, and in industry after industry, right?
My favorite story is when they invented that machine that was going to destroy office work. All the secretaries were going to lose their job It was going to literally just devastate business. And it turns out that they were wrong. The typewriter didn't hurt business, but
It advanced it.
at the time it came out, though,
Yeah.
man, it was evil. A
It-
lot of
it-
people
they
tried to
advanced it,
fight
yeah.
the release of it.
The
And the same
amount of
was-
stuff that you could do with a typewriter and with a secretarial pool, you could not do it when everything was being handwritten and using lead type to print it.
Well, and then the word processor and computer came along and destroyed the whiteout industry. For those of you people that have never worked with a typewriter, when you're typing a document and you hit one wrong key, you can't tell it to go back and switch that key. You get this little bottle of white paint out, and you dab just a little on it, and then you blow on it to get it dry, and then you can type the right letter in and keep typing. But I've had documents brought into my office by one of my girls back when we used typewriters that had more whiteout on it showing than it had paper. She was just having a bad day, hit a lot of bad keystrokes, and out comes the whiteout. Now I doubt that you can find whiteout in the store.
Well, when I was taking journalism classes, we still had to use carbon paper.
Oh gosh!
And this 40-pound bond is about newspaper weight as the second copy. And if we made a mistake, we had to start over again. We could white it out on that top copy, but we had to give a completely clean. It's like, this was so ridiculous. We were even laughing at it at the time, because it was holding on to something old school that had value at the time, but wasn't relevant. It was not relevant even then. And, we have to be willing to embrace it. Mike, we got about 10 minutes here before we have to. 9 minutes.
One more example on that, and that's NCR paper, which is
perfect example.
Carbonless paper.
Yep.
So you didn't have to get the black ink all over your hands from the carbon paper. You could just type it out. Boom, you had 3 to 8 copies. Press hard, the bottom copy is yours. That's from my real estate sales days. But that's now pretty much become obsolete with people under 35, because what they'll do is print, write out the form one time at wherever they're using the format, usually a purchase. And then everybody that needs a copy, they just take a picture of it with their camera that's in their pocket.
It gets sent to your email or whatever.
Yeah. So there's no need for multiple copies. There is a need to be able to digitize. As a matter of fact, the guy wrong way. Let's go this way. That guy right there, former NBA center, his job now is running a division for a Fortune 500 company called Minolta, and his only job for his whole division is taking paper insurance forms and making them digital. So it's a multi-million-dollar company, and their only job is taking the letter that you sent the insurance company and making it digital.
And he's one of your best sellers.
Oh, he's just a great guy. I mean, he could tell all those NBA stories. We wrote one book for him where he explained how you could go broke on $100 million contract, and it didn't involve any drugs or loose women or anything. It was eye-opening, to say the very least, folks. But it'll be in the library too. I just put a call into him. The name of it's Fast Broke, so we'll be getting it on there. But I do want to say this. If someone contacts us and needs expertise in a certain area, you and I have become great connectors, because of the podcast shows you're working on, and me because I know 1,000 expert authors. So reach out to myself or Emerson and tell us what you need. You may find that we'll put an expert on in a couple weeks that'll give you exactly what it was you needed. So,
well, and I'll just say this: Mike has he has attracted some of the. There's some people in the publishing industry who wish you would not tell people that you can actually publish multiple books for about what most are charging for one or two. And Mike has taken the knowledge that he has, and for small businesses and small business people, and for small towns for that matter, because that's another whole thing that Jim and I and Mike are working on is reaching out to Main Street USA, the backbone of America, and small towns, and bringing attention to the value and to the interesting histories and to the ways that small town businesses and small town people, small towns themselves, man, they make a difference. They are the backbone. You are the backbone.
They really do. And it's not value as much for me as it is their values. And
Yes.
If you don't know
Yes.
the difference, folks, between value and values, get a Webster and check that out. Because values in small towns, you know, I had a friend in a small town that I went to his house, visited with him. We were going to run out to lunch, and we go out the front door and we're walking to the car. I said, "You forgot to lock your door." And he says, "Mike, I don't know if I have a key to that door." You won't find someone in New York City saying that, because they'll have 14 deadbolts on their door.
Well,
that's
sadly,
a value difference between small communities. And the reason for it is everybody knows you. So you're not a stranger hiding in the dark, being able to do whatever mischievous things you want. I mean, the police know if some kids break in someplace, they probably know which kids to go talk to. In the same way, they know which attorney will take time and counsel them for free just to see whether they need attorney and that. I mean, there's all kinds of values, and we have them in big cities too. It's just they're not as easy to see and recognize. So I'm real excited with what we're going to be doing with the small towns and the businesses in the small towns. Because
if you live in a small town or have a business, or maybe a franchise in multiple small towns, reach out to Jim, reach out to Mike. You can find on our website, or reach out to me, and let us know, because there's a real good chance that yours will end up being showcased on this show. And this show, by the way, folks, is seen by between 1 million and 1.5 million viewers a month. It brings attention to your town, to the people, to the values, as Mike was talking about, and all of the different things that matter. And it's something that through the work that Jim has done for 2 going on 3 years on building a show of inspirational stories that reaches over 1.5 million people a month, all over the country. In fact, internationally, but all over the country. And Mike has decades of understanding how to publish and make a book a bestseller, and how to do it in a way that is it's astronomically less than what I've ever seen in the publishing industry.
Well, the girl in yellow, gosh, I'm terrible at mirrored.
There you are. You got her
right there. That's Kim Lisa Taylor. She launched her second book today, and with us helping make it a bestseller. And I'm so excited to say she crushed it. I mean, not only was she #1 in the specific areas for her book, but she was #1 on Amazon overall in all real estate. And she was number 40 of all business books on Amazon.
Wow.
And folks, that's huge. When you consider that the average book might only sell 100 copies, selling hundreds and hundreds of them in one day is a really big deal. And Kim did a wonderful job with it, with my help, of course. But having said that, we do want to get ideas from y'all on what you think are areas, ideas, knowledge that would help your business. And we may not be able to do a whole show on what your problem is, but we can probably take 10 or 20 of them and squeeze them all into one show with a general business expert. And
or somebody in your town that you think should be highlighted on this show.
Perfect.
Yeah,
And
it'd be a great start.
and we're going to be giving out a bunch of information. That's our business model, is to find good people that know what they're doing and
Right.
get them to impart accurate and timely information to you. I mean, that's what our company is all about. And it's critically important that that you work with, you know, the right information. And it's hard to find when you're a little businessman working your butt off every day. You don't have time to go cruise LinkedIn or Facebook or any of that stuff. You're too busy
And try to figure
keeping
out
the doors
what's the
open.
wheat and what's the chaff. What do
Yeah.
you keep and what do you toss?
Yeah. So whether you use us and Jim as your aggregator, or you find other experts that are aggregating information, you want someone that really knows what they know, funneling some of this for you. And we'll get it wrong occasionally. I mean, we're human. It's going to happen. But there's a lot less likelihood, if someone met our criteria, got in the book or got on the show, we've done our due diligence. And we're not saying for you not to do your due diligence. That's just good, sound business. But, you know, our pledge is to bring timely and accurate information to small businesses and to small cities. You know, we want to level the playing field. Both Emerson and I have been entrepreneurs for, well, me north of 50 years, and Emerson's getting close. He took 4 years for college, so he was a little slow getting into the entrepreneurial thing. But Jim, I see you're back. We had a great show, Jim. I've said everything I need to today. Had a great time doing it. I'm going to step back and let you and Emerson close this out. Okay.
Okay. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed being here with you guys. And ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of Emerson, myself, and Mike, you know, my goodness, we're so glad that you tuned in today. We're running over time, but most importantly, be sure and go to, you know, ideasworthknowing.com and get your complimentary books there. And you don't have to get them all at one time, but just make sure you get some of those, because that's a tremendous value in it, Emerson.
It is, and share the link with people that you know, because we're extending that to you.
Absolutely. Thank you again for tuning in, and be sure and share the show with others. We'll be back tomorrow with Women in Leadership. We hope that you and your loved ones are blessed in all areas of your life. Thank you now. Bye-bye.